Starting to get nasty.
We've got to get out of here.
January 2003. A captain and his ship are in trouble on the Atlantic Ocean. The crew aboard the Finnish cargo ship Camila struggles to get its 7,000 horsepower engine up and running. It's been breaking down all through the night.
When the engine stopped working, I woke up instantly with the notion that something was wrong.
The massive 12-cylinder engine has a badly damaged oil filter. So there's no oil to lubricate the engine's crankshaft. The crankshaft grinds against the bearings that connect it to the rotating pistons. That constant friction has caused the engine to seize up and die. Captain Margala knows that with no engine power, he and his 15 crew members are trapped. His 28-year-old third officer, Mayu Sari, loves the adventure of working on the high seas. But this is a new and frightening experience.
Coffee, do you want one?
When we realized that the engine couldn't be fixed, I remember thinking, this is an impossible situation. I thought to myself, now something is going to happen and there's nothing I can do about it. I felt numb at that moment.
The Camila is stranded more than 450 kilometers from the nearest port, St. John's. The Grand Banks off the east coast of Canada is the last place you want engine failure. The water here is shallow. A shallow seabed creates massive waves. The area is also known for its unpredictable weather. More than 7,000 ships have sunk in these waters over the centuries. And now, even worse news is rolling in.
And tell him to double check with Esco. Mayu?
Just a sec. Doesn't look good. Coming straight for us.
We've run out of time.
A cyclone is approaching from the southwest. Winds will hit 150 kilometers an hour. Waves will reach 24 meters, enough to sink the stricken Camila. The storm is still hours away, but Captain Margala knows that help is also far away. Anyone who tries to rescue his crew will have to outrace the storm. Margala is forced to consider all options for escape. The nearest tugboat is 20 hours away.
Run out of time.
But it's his best hope.
We're going to have to try for a tug.
Tugboat? Out this far in this? You really think that...
Of course.
Even though I knew that our situation was uncertain, I could not show it, or else everyone would start worrying, and that would lead to panic.
Because the Camila is unable to move forward, it has no resistance against the power of the storm. When the cyclone's waves hit this shallow floor, their energy gets compressed, creating huge breaking waves. which can smash windows, shift cargo, and potentially even turn the ship upside down.
The waves come in like this and beat and shake you. And there is nothing you can do about it.
Be right here on top of us. One thing's for sure. We've got to get out of here. I'll call the owners.
North 46, 55, 1. West 46, 49, 8.
This is Mayu Sari's first job as an officer. During her 6-year sailing career, she has never had to fear for her life. Until now.
When we realized that the storm would hit us if we didn't get out of its way, I had to switch into a certain mental mode in order to cope with the situation. Because even if something was going to happen to us, I couldn't start crying there or panicking.
Starting to get nasty. Waves, 6, maybe 7 meters.
If a tugboat's going to save them, it will have to outrace the storm.
Hey, the engine won't be fixed for 24 hours, so we're looking for a tug.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good, thanks.
What'd they say?
They're going to try to send us a tug.
Great.
Yeah.
So how's it looking out there?
It's a big low-pressure system moving in from the east. It's going to be poor visibility, high winds. Waves are going to be very big.
More than 600 kilometers from the stranded Camila is home base for 103 Search and Rescue Squadron. Veteran helicopter pilot Major Gilbert Thibault arrives on duty.
We are asked to go in situations that are extremes, and we have to make decisions also that may mean somebody's gonna live or somebody's gonna die.
In the coming hours, Thibault will face many life and death decisions as he and his team put their lives on the line to save 16 sailors. The Camila has now been stranded for 2 hours. The storm is moving closer.
Okay, yeah, will do. Right, thanks.
There are no tugboats close enough to get to the Camila before the storm hits. Captain Margala will have to find another way to save the lives of his crew.
We could not afford to take the risk of staying there in a storm of this magnitude, and then in the morning to have to check whether we were afloat or had drowned.
He now faces the moment every skipper dreads.
When I started to make a decision about abandoning the ship, it was certainly the toughest decision of my life and of my entire sailing career.
Rescue Center Halifax to Camila.
Go ahead, Halifax.
Please state your present coordinates.
46, 56, 8, north. 46, 47, 1, west.
You got that?
Siinä oli yksi hetki, kun
There was a moment when I was quite terrified. It happened when the Coast Guard asked how many people our life rafts can take. Then I thought if we have to go on those rafts in that weather, that will be really serious. But somehow I managed to wipe these thoughts from my mind and calm myself down.
The ship is now rocking so uncontrollably that it's simply not possible to attempt escape in the lifeboats.
We cannot stay here, but lifeboats are not an option.
What we're going to do is send a helicopter to you.
There's 16 of us!
Your situation has been designated an M1 emergency.
An M1 emergency. Top priority because the Camilla's crew is in danger of injury or death.
Now we see.
The hopes of rescue for Captain Margala, Third Officer Sari, and the rest of the crew now hinge on a helicopter reaching them before the storm hits. But the nearest helicopter is in Gander, 618 kilometers away. St. John's is the closest point of land. The entire journey is more than 1,000 kilometers. On top of that, the helicopter will have to hover for more than an hour to hoist the 16 sailors to safety. It's impossible without refueling.
Urgent. Cormorant standby crew report to operations immediately. Cormorant standby crew report to operations immediately.
Okay, guys. We have got a cargo vessel out of Finland. They've lost their engine. She's almost 450 kilometers offshore from St. John's.
This mission will push men and machine to the limit. Major Thibault's co-pilot is Captain Andrew Mercer. Mercer spent years flying tactical helicopters around the world. But on this six-man team, he's the new kid on the block.
Obviously, we can't get there and back on a full tank.
Hibernia. It's probably going to be our best bet.
Major Thibault is counting on a fuel stop at the Hibernia oil drilling platform, located 150 kilometers from the Camilla. It will enable the helicopter to make the entire round trip.
As far as time on scene, I know you guys would like as much as possible.
Major Thibault has calculated exactly how much time they can spend on the rescue itself and still have enough fuel to get back to home base.
Necessary goes. By my calculation, I can give you 75 minutes.
That's less than 5 minutes to hoist each of the 16 sailors.
In 30 minutes?
With each passing minute, weather conditions deteriorate as the storm moves closer to the stricken vessel. Before abandoning ship, the crew closes all doors and conduits in order to make the Camilla as watertight as possible. Third Officer Mayu Sari notifies everyone of the decision to abandon ship.
Get your survival suits ready. We're abandoning ship. Hey, everybody, wake up! Let's go! Let's go!
Back at the base, Major Thibault is relying on this impressive piece of machinery to save the lives of the sailors. The newly acquired CH-149 Cormorant. He has stripped excess equipment from the helicopter to make room for 16 passengers. He must eliminate all unnecessary weight. The lighter the load, the more fuel they can carry. And Thibault knows that every drop will count on this mission.
An helicopter is not like a car. You cannot run out of fuel and park it on the side of the road. I mean, running out of fuel is not an option.
With little to do but wait, Captain Margala considers the consequences of his decision.
päätöksenteko on joskus pikkusen vaikeaa, mutta ei...
Making a decision is sometimes a little difficult, but if you make right decisions, then anyone who knows about sailing will know that this guy is not dumb. He has been able to make the right decision at a critical moment. But if you make wrong decisions, after that your career may be gone as well.
Sen jälkeen voi olla karrierikin mennyt.
Sergeant Rob Vedito will be responsible for operating the rescue hoist. Before takeoff, he double-checks to make sure that this lifeline is in perfect working order.
Check. Right handout is approved. Surface winds are 310, 15, gusting 20 knots. Clear takeoff from the south pad.
The Cyclone is closing in on the Camila. For the rescuers, the race is on to get there first.
I would lie to you if the adrenaline's not pumping. The adrenaline is definitely pumping, and your mind is rushing. I'm going through all these different scenarios. How can I make it better? Where can I go for fuel? Do I need medical? It just keeps going on and on and on and on and on. You just keep going through the scenario, going through problems, coming up with answers, solutions. It's just a constant. Your head's going all the time until it's done at the end.
For Major Thibault, the Cormorant is the ultimate flying machine. Its 3 powerful turbine engines produce an incredible 6,400 horsepower.
I often compare the Cormorant to an F1 race car, a machine with that much technology in it, and it's also a machine that you push to its limit fairly often in the job we do.
The Cormorant-shaped rotor blades, protected by titanium strips along the edge, improve lift and increase speed. It also means this helicopter can operate successfully in extremely high winds. But even the Cormorant has its limits. If they get caught in the approaching cyclone, Major Thibault will have to abort the mission. Rescue headquarters has warned Captain Margala that it's not certain the helicopter can get to the Camila.
Of course, there was a sense of distress when we were told that the helicopter may not be able to come if the wind picks up. And there was naturally a sense of uncertainty on the ship about what was really going to happen. Will they be able to get us out of there, or will they not be able to get us out?
Because the crew is in danger, the ship's owners have already contacted the families of everyone on board.
Yksi ehkä pahimmista tunteista, mitä tuli sitten.
One of the worst feelings was the fact that my parents and sister knew about my situation, but I couldn't contact them to tell them how it's going so far.
Silloin tuli.
It was really bad to think about how they must have felt when they didn't really know anything. Well, other than the fact that the ship was in distress, at sea, in a storm. I started reading a book to get my mind away from it, so that I would not panic. I sat around, took deep breaths, and calmed myself down. Not to do anything stupid, like get nervous or overreact.
Hengittelin rauhallisesti ja rauhoittelin itseäni, että nyt ei saa tehdä mitään typerää. Ei saa hermostua eikä ylireagoida.
It did help me. It was like a meditation.
Ikään kuin meditaation omainen.
The The pilot's plan to refuel at the Hibernia oil rig is shattered. They've just been informed that Hibernia can't supply them with fuel.
Well, that's too bad. For us. Okay, over. Go figure, huh? Hibernia out of fuel.
We got information saying that the Hibernia had run out of fuel, and being the biggest oil producer out there, it was kind of just ironic that they didn't have the fuel for us.
Major Thibault was forced to divert to another oil rig to refuel.
Make our way over to the Henry Goodrich.
The Cormorant heads for the Henry Goodrich drilling platform, an additional 35 kilometers away from the Camila. The diversion will add 10 minutes to the journey. That means less time for the rescue itself. And now there's no hope of beating the storm. It's closing in at a rate of 85 kilometers an hour. The Henry Goodrich is a floating rig, not anchored to the seabed. So landing in high winds is extremely dangerous. Thibault will not be able to control the landing from his side of the helicopter.
Never landed on a floating rig before, huh? It's different.
So to keep the helicopter into wind and to keep visual with the platform, I had to let Andrew fly. I didn't have the references on my side.
Co-pilot Mercer has never landed on a floating platform before. It's a rare and difficult operation that requires enormous skill and nerves of steel, a critical moment to capture on video. One of the search and rescue technicians starts the camera rolling as co-pilot Mercer closes in on the rig.
All yours, Andrew. I'll let them know we're coming in. Rescue 911 to Goodrich. Seeking permission to land for refueling, over.
The Cormorant has landed. But now the helicopter's in danger of being blown off the platform. In order to prevent this, Mercer has to reverse the angle of the rotor blade, a technique known as negative pitch. This creates a downward force and pushes the helicopter onto the landing pad.
We actually sucked ourselves onto the oil rig. It's a really neat thing that we can do. I don't think very many actually helicopters can do that.
On the Camila, Captain Margala prepares to abandon ship.
Yes, one can't help but wonder what my wife was thinking and whether we would ever see each other again in this world. When this thought came, I just had to push it to the back of my mind because I had to look after things at hand and then think about it again when the right time came.
Appreciate the top up. Glad to be of help, Major. Best of luck out there. Thanks. We'll need it.
After the stop on the oil platform, the Cormorant has just enough fuel to get them to the Camila, hover for 75 minutes to hoist the stranded crew to safety, and fly 477 kilometers to the nearest land at St. John's. But then, just before takeoff, the unthinkable happens.
Okay, we're set. Com failure. We've got a com failure. Switching over to main system. Andrew, can you read me? Rob, can you hear me?
The Cormorant's complex fiber optic communication system has stopped working.
Rob, can you hear me?
I'm not getting you.
Okay, we're gonna do this by the book. We're gonna run a full system check.
While Thibault and Mercer can talk to each other, they can't communicate with flight engineer Rob Vedito in the back, and they have to be able to talk to him to execute the hoisting operations.
Start with com breaker 3, AC bus. Can you read me now, Rob? Com breaker 2 on DC bus. Com breaker 3 on DC bus.
Now the Major has a gut-wrenching decision to make. Press on or abort the mission altogether.
This is not good. Breaker 3, AC bus. Can you hear me now, Rob? Okay. Let's run everything twice. Breaker 3, DC bus.
The first thing that came in our head was that we won't be able to do this. You know, if we cannot communicate, there's no way we're going to be able to recover these people. So the first thing, I think, for all the crew members was, you know, we're stuck. We're going to have to go back.
There's only an hour and 40 minutes until sunset. Barely enough time to get to the Camila and do a 75-minute hoisting operation. Thibault and Mercer systematically reset all the breakers on board.
Rob, anything?
Can you hear me, Rob? Gotcha, Major. Loud and clear.
Eventually, success.
We're back. Let's get moving here.
The delay has cost another precious 15 minutes.
When I left my cabin for the last time, I had those things we were allowed to take with us, a few papers and a passport. I had packed my suitcase and I think I'd made my bed, just in case if the ship doesn't sink, somebody might come and see how I had lived there.
Captain Margala orders everyone to put on their survival suits. These dry suits are waterproof. They're made with neoprene, a synthetic rubber that contains millions of tiny air bubbles. The bubbles act as an insulator and help with buoyancy. Dry suits provide warmth by protecting the clothing beneath from wind and water. Without the suit, the bitterly cold water of the Atlantic would kill them.
The last thing I wrote in the logbook on the command bridge was, of course, that most difficult fact, that we are now going to abandon the ship.
Captain Margala is now certain the ship and its cargo are doomed. He relays the grim news to the ship's owners in Finland.
You dial, huh?
Yeah. Sure. Niin me puettiin ne pelastuspuvut sitten niinku.
It was pretty difficult with that suit. He would hold the phone and I would push the buttons and he would talk. It was a strange feeling that this may be the last time they'd hear from us.
Me sitten mennään tonne alas, että mikä on tilanne ja...
Margala here.
ETA, 5 minutes on scene. Andrew, get the captain.
As the cormorant closes in on the Camila, the search and rescue technicians make final preparations.
Rescue 911 to Camila. Rescue 911 to Camila.
This is Camila, go ahead, 911.
Rescue helicopter approximately 5 minutes from you. All crew should gather on deck.
Tell them everyone's down there. We're just on our way.
We're on our way.
Hang in there, over.
Hey, we should go.
One last smoke. After this trip, I quit.
There's now just over an hour of daylight left. After flying for 3.5 hours, Thibault and Mercer catch their first sight of the stranded ship. From a distance, the situation doesn't look life-threatening. But as they move in, it becomes obvious that this operation will test Thibault's helicopter and crew to the limit.
Suddenly rides this huge 300 foot piece of metal is out of control. Very slowly, it's not spinning like a cork, it's moving very slowly, rolling, twisting, corking, sliding up and down the waves. And you suddenly realize this is not a stable platform. We have to rescue 16 people.
The storm is closing in. Scientists call this type of storm a meteorological bomb because it is intensifying at such an explosive rate. Within a few short hours, its winds have more than doubled in force from 35 to 75 kilometers per hour, with its highest waves reaching over 80 feet, the height of a 7-story building.
My impression was that these guys were not gonna make it through the night, and we had to take them off. Otherwise, that was the end for them.
Major Thibault has a huge challenge. He has to figure out how to get as close as possible in order to lower his men onto the moving target. But if he flies too low, the cormorant could run into the mast of the tossing ship with deadly results.
When the helicopter did arrive, I was naturally very excited that now we are finally getting out of here.
This is gonna be tough. I'm gonna swing around for another look.
The jubilation on board the Camila doesn't last long.
But all of a sudden it circled the boat and then headed away from us. Well, that is when we all thought, hey, wait a minute, has the wind now gotten so bad that we won't be taken away from here?
The sailors are certain the helicopter is abandoning them, their one and only hope of escape vanishing on the horizon. Major Thibault circles around to check out potential obstacles and determine his best plan of attack. He has precious few seconds to decide if a rescue is feasible. Thibault must keep the helicopter at a constant equal distance from the ship. To achieve this, he must make the helicopter rise and fall with the waves. 2 search and rescue technicians will be lowered onto the deck. One man will control the guide cable to reduce swaying during the hoisting. The other, Corporal Scott Elliston, will hook each sailor to the hoist and ride back up to the helicopter with them, one at a time.
Kind of thinking it's a big boat, it's moving, it's dead in the water, so it's going to be a different challenge. It's not facing straight into the seas where it's a more controlled situation that we're used to. It's rolling differently, which means as things move and we're on the hoist, there's a potential for us to be, banged off part of the boat or hit or something. So you're kind of thinking of how you're going to do the business and, sometimes what might go wrong.
The success or failure of this mission will come down to split-second timing. That's where flight engineer Rob Vedito plays a crucial role. He has the best view of the deck. He must tell Thibault when the search and rescue technician has landed safely and is ready to begin the hoist. As Vedito counts down, the rhythm of his voice signals how close the hoist is to its target.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Steady. Ease down.
Rescue 911 to Camila, over.
Go on, 911!
We need you to move your crew forward to the bow of the ship, over.
Hey!
It's pretty icy over here!
Me hoipereltiin sitten ryhmässä sieltä.
We staggered to the front while the boat was going up and down, and the survival suits were quite slippery, so we had to walk carefully. I took the safest route to go across the deck. I held onto the railings all the time so that I would not slide back and forth. It was tough.
Liikkuminen oli vähän hankalaa siinä vaiheessa.
The first rescuer is now on deck, controlling the guide cable. It's time for Corporal Scott Elliston to start his descent.
You definitely feel vulnerable on the end of the cable, whether you're going to potentially get banged into something or if the helicopter has a malfunction and has to set down on the ground or whatever, if it's going to end up going down. You're on the end of a cable attached to the helicopter, so you're going to get dragged along with it, so you're definitely exposed when you're on the end of the hook.
Timing here is crucial. Getting it wrong could mean serious injury for Elliston or one of the sailors.
Okay, sir, raise your arm. When we get up there, I'll guide you in. Do not reach out at any time, okay? Here we go.
I had some notion that the crew must have been a little bit scared, since no one had ever been hoisted by a wire into a roaring helicopter. And I can understand it well, since I myself felt some horror looking at that thin wire. How could it possibly carry 2 men?
The cable may look flimsy. It is less than 5 millimeters in diameter. In fact, it can lift more than 800 kilos at a time. To maintain an equal distance between the ship and the helicopter, Thibault has to constantly increase and decrease power. Because the power is changing, adjustments are required to all the other controls. The helicopter is never stable.
Keep in mind that that boat is rocking like a chair, like 45 degrees each way, and it's moving up and down. So you're following that boat through all that motion. And then, if you don't anticipate properly, the boat starts to rise up again, and now it's coming towards you, so you have to move the helicopter back up.
One by one, the crew are lifted into the Cormorant. There are still 6 sailors left on deck, and only enough fuel to hover for another 25 minutes. Right now, Major Thibault has another challenge. The power demand on the engines is constantly changing. To maintain the hovering position, the engines are working at 100% capacity. Now and then, strong crosswinds blow into the rotors, causing problems for Thibault.
Enough to hold up here, boys. Let's go. Keep it moving.
The crosswinds create something called translational lift. When that happens, the engine doesn't have to work nearly as hard. This constant change causes massive vibration and puts enormous physical strain on both the helicopter and Thibault.
Well, it's very tiring, obviously. There's a lot of turbulence. We're moving a lot. It's a very demanding, not only mentally, but physically.
Do not reach out at any time, okay?
Scott Elliston prepares the 11th sailor for liftoff. 5 remain to be saved. Thibault is keeping a close eye on his fuel gauge. He's running out of daylight and out of fuel. Soon there will be no choice but to leave the Camila whether or not there are any sailors left on the ship. Even for a veteran like Thibault, the pressure is huge.
Saying that there's never any emotion would be probably lying. There's always emotion. Let's put it this way. If one of our family member was in there, it would probably be impossible to make a reasonable decision. So in many ways, I believe not knowing the people you're You're helping is probably what allows you to make the right decision, because it's always very difficult. You have to go step by step, very slowly and very safely.
Tietysti siinä on muita.
We had to be calm. We couldn't show that we were scared or in panic, because there's always that danger of fear being contagious. And now we had so little waiting time left that we needed to take it easy.
Save a seat for me, Mayu!
Kun tuli mun vuoro mennä siihen vaijerille ja...
When it was my turn to go to the cable, I already knew what to do. I just tried to do what the guy told me. When we were going up, I remember wondering what's going on in this guy's head. We didn't really talk that much on the way up to the helicopter. But I wasn't scared at that time anymore, because it was obvious they knew what they were doing.
Rob, now Scott, we have 10 minutes of fuel left.
The helicopter has been hovering over the thrashing boat for more than an hour. The winds are increasing, the waves are getting bigger, and daylight is beginning to fade.
Now you get the pressure on the radio. They're like, okay, where are you at? We got to get going. So then it starts getting even more pressure. Now you're rushing even more, because now you're down to the wire where you have to get it done.
Kun mä olin siellä helikopterissa, niin siinä oli semmoinen pallon muoto.
When I was in the helicopter, I looked through this rounded window, and I tried to look one last time. And I did see it down there, floating. And it hurt to see it over there, rocking alone. It felt like, how did we dare to leave it there alone in the dark sea with a storm coming?
The rescued sailors don't realize that up in the cockpit, Thibault and Mercer are now trying to deal with a new danger.
It's killing us.
The additional weight of the sailors in the back, combined with the demand on the engine in hover mode, is causing decay, or drooping, on the rotors. They are actually slowing down.
Last thing you want to hear is rotor. When you hear the warning, rotor, 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 you know that the helicopter's run out of power.
And if you're losing power and the speed of the rotor drops, you know where you're going. You're not flying anymore.
But this time, the dusk was upon us, the storm was coming upon us, you're getting the last couple guys in.
Slowing down of the rotors is critical. Thibault can continue with the mission or abort. The fate of those remaining on the ship is in his hands. He has very little time to decide.
Just going to have to ignore it.
Thibault takes a chance and ignores the warning. Captain Margala and the two rescuers are still on the deck.
You notice the winds were picking up. It was getting worse. The winds were stronger. The boat was rolling more. So it definitely became more of a challenge as the mission went on.
Captain Margala has watched his entire crew of 15 ascend to safety. After more than an hour on the ship's icy bow, it's his turn.
It was, to say the least, a little bit difficult to run to the hoist guy. You had to always watch whether the deck was like this or if it was like this. And when the deck was level, you had to run and be careful not to start running when the deck was tilting. The deck had to be level, and then you would go. When I was a young boy, I naturally was hoping that, if and when I went to sea, that I would never have to abandon ship. But that's what happened. And of all things, on a helicopter. My last look at Camila was when I sat in the doorway of the helicopter, just before going in to sit down. I thought, this is where you'll be left rocking. It is a pity that we had to leave. But there was no choice.
Thibault and his team complete the evacuation in 70 minutes. The Cormorant has just enough fuel to get to St. John's. As the helicopter picks up speed, the drooping rotors return to normal, but the storm is closing in. The sailors settle in for what they hope will be an uneventful journey. With daylight fading, the flight home will be in total darkness and bitter cold.
Let's keep altitude at 200 feet. May as well avoid these headwinds. We might even save some gas. You know, it wasn't that long ago we wouldn't even be flying in these conditions.
The storm is closing in. Temperatures are dropping. Thibault and Mercer know that there's a real danger of ice building up on the rotors. The last thing you want on a helicopter.
Helicopters are not designed to fly in ice. When I was flying Army-type helicopters, you avoided it like the plague. You hit a cloud of ice and you did a 180, you returned back.
Not anymore. The Cormorant is equipped with special de-icing equipment called a Rotor Ice Protection Unit, or RIPU for short. The RIPU system transfers heat into the rotors to prevent ice from building up. But there is a trade-off. De-icing draws a huge amount of power that has to come from somewhere. Ice is building rapidly on the rotors. The RIPU is sucking up power to get rid of it, and the Cormorant is working to the max to keep its heavy load aloft. Something's got to give. The chopper is using so much power that Mercer's control panel, all the instruments he needs for navigation, dies.
Losing EIS screens. Prepare to take over. They're standing by. Just give it a second.
So now we're flying at night, low level over the ocean, in freezing rain and snow, and then to lose your instruments is quite something.
I'm going to try switching my signal generators over to you. Here we go.
Thibault transfers the generators from his control panel over to Mercer's side of the helicopter.
Essentially, I was using now his instruments or his signal generator to provide input into my screens.
Oh, it's one way to get the adrenaline pumping, huh? It seems to be
The
holding.
Cormorant heads for St. John's, 477 kilometers away. The passengers have no idea what their pilots have been dealing with in the cockpit.
We never knew a thing about that. We couldn't even hear any sign that the helicopter might have had any kind of trouble. And I have the feeling that had we known, we would surely have thought, okay, we're going from the frying pan into the fire. "13 hours after the Camilla's engine died, the Cormorant finally touches down in St. John's. It's been the longest day of Captain Rackala's life. It felt wonderful when the helicopter finally landed at the airport and we were able to walk on dry land, so to speak, without getting our feet wet. It was a really fantastic feeling.
For Major Thibault and 103 Search and Rescue Squadron, it's all souls saved. Mission accomplished. October 8, 2005. In northern Pakistan, in the capital city of Islamabad, a massive earthquake rips through the Margala Towers in one of the city's wealthiest areas. Inside, all hell is breaking loose. In her ground floor apartment, Khalida Begum struggles to hustle her elderly mother out of harm's way.
I held her hand and brought her to the corridor.
Residents stampede for the exits as the building begins to collapse around them.
After taking a few steps, things started to fall on us. Then the ground suddenly opened up and we fell into it.
One floor above, May Amin and her family are desperately trying to escape. But the earthquake's force is swift and deadly. In less than a minute, the seismic monster has wiped out 3 of the Margala towers. The residents who couldn't escape in time were instantly entombed.
Hello, John Holland.
More than 6,000 kilometers away in the middle of the night, John Holland gets the call. He leads one of the world's top disaster response teams, a highly trained group of search and rescue volunteers known as Rapid UK.
When I turned on the TV, you could see aerial pictures of villages and towns that have been totally destroyed. The most dramatic pictures that were coming back were of the Margala Towers in Islamabad.
Holland learns that the earthquake, measuring 7.6 on the Richter scale, has crippled much of northern Pakistan and Kashmir, along with parts of India and Afghanistan. It's one of the worst natural disasters in Pakistan's history.
Hold on a minute, will you?
We would welcome assistance from friends all over the world. We are in the process now of sizing up the damage.
Okay, yeah, I'm on the way.
Evacuating people.
Nearly 1,200 kilos of special high-tech equipment are loaded for the mission. Everything from stretchers and rescue packs to high-tech searching devices like thermal imagers and vibraphones. At the Margala Towers in Islamabad, there is an urgent need for well-trained rescuers. Hundreds of people lived in these buildings. Nobody knows how many of them made it out alive. One of the people searching for loved ones is 34-year-old Mamoon Tariq Khan. He lived in one of the adjoining towers that withstood the quake. Several members of his extended family lived in one of the towers that collapsed.
I'll be honest, when I just looked at the rubble, 11 flights, all down to just a floor and a half. It started setting in as to what could have happened to my own family. I was the only one, of my immediate family alive.
As Mamoon searches for 4 generations of his family, his thoughts drift to happier times. Mamoon's sister and her young son were inside one of the collapsed towers. Also missing, his 76-year-old grandmother and his 56-year-old mother, Khalida.
Next time, why not bring the refrigerator? It's easier to carry.
During this state of intense loss, I heard my sister's voice. I turned around, she was holding her baby in her arms.
Mamoun's sister and her son narrowly escaped before the tower collapsed.
The very next thing was, you know, where's Mom and Grandma? And she says, they're right behind me.
Mamoun and others who gather at the site struggle to stay positive, but faced with such destruction, it's hard to keep the faith. Even the most optimistic would find it hard to believe that under thousands of tons of rubble, the weight of 10 collapsed floors, Mamoun's mother and grandmother are still alive. They are trapped in a tiny, hollow space. If the mountain of rubble shifts even slightly, it will crush them.
I thought it was the end of the world. I was thinking that only my mother and I had survived and everyone else had died.
Khalida's mother, Ma Bibi, is barely alive. She has a deep head wound that will not stop bleeding.
I was very worried about my mom since she was not in good shape. She was vomiting and I could smell blood. I was expecting death at any time.
John Holland and his disaster response team have arrived in Pakistan.
We were met at the airport by the British Embassy, Pakistan government officials, the military, the police, and because we were the first international rescue team there, everybody wanted us.
Holland and an assessment team head straight to the Margala Towers. He evaluates the damage while other Rapid UK members load equipment back at the airport.
The size of the buildings immediately said to me, these people need specialised equipment. They need specialised teams in there.
Holland asks the rest of his team to move as quickly as possible to the Margala Towers. The rescuers face a volatile situation. A large crowd of onlookers hover helplessly, desperate for quick results, some kind of sign that family members are alive.
Why don't you help us instead of pushing us around?
I saw the rubble. I was all, you know, on top of them. But knowing that it's going to be a while, it was a terrible feeling to know that they were not the priority right then. And I could not make them the priority either.
Because he's accompanied by officials, Holland is rushed through the crowd. But he knows all too well that in an earthquake, roughly 90% of the people saved are dug out within the first 24 hours. Holland also realizes that aftershocks from the quake can shift the rubble, killing those who are trapped and those trying to save them. The rest of the Rapid UK team arrives and kicks into action. While some of them set up a base camp and communications center, another group starts searching right away.
Anthony, can you put it near the generator, I think?
One of the members is Gillian Dacey, the team's medic. Like all Rapid UK members, she is specially trained.
And that includes basic search, basic rescue, working at height, logistics, security, base camp issues, communications.
The mission has been meticulously planned. Nothing has been left to chance. The camp is fully equipped.
We're a self-sufficient team, so we take out our own food, which is sort of pre-packaged sealed ration packs. We take a small amount of water to start us off until we find a local supply. We take all our own search equipment, rescue equipment, take our own toilet equipment, so we're not a burden on the local people or environment.
At the heart of the operation is a state-of-the-art communication hub.
Check, check. Can you read John over?
Satellite phones as part of the communications equipment, along with computers, broadband internet access, and we've got our own radio communications on site as well, in between team members and the base camp.
The team gears up to start searching the surface of the rubble.
Clear. Proceed to site for surface search. Over.
Roger, over and out. Come on, we're up, everybody.
There are enough provisions at the camp for a 10-day mission. Under the rubble, time is running out. Khalida listens helplessly as her mother moans and grows weaker by the hour.
Here, put this against your head. It'll stop the bleeding, Ami.
I was happy that I was with my mom. It was good that she was with me. I was trying my best to comfort her. I knew that we couldn't get out without the help of God.
John Holland and his team need to take control of the noisy and crowded disaster site.
Before we can start search and rescue operations, the first thing we have to do is clear the rubble. And we're looking at thousands of people on and around the rubble. Asking people to leave the rubble when they've got families missing, relatives, friends, neighbours, it is a very hard job to do. And it's certainly not one I like doing, but it has to be done.
I stayed right next to where the action was for most of the time. I yelled at the administration, I fought with them, and even then, I just couldn't change the pace at which people were being pulled out.
The problem is that the noise of the rescuers above ground can drown out sound coming from deep inside the rubble.
In the beginning, we could hear the drilling of machines and the sirens from the ambulances.
Across the site, operators are ordered to turn off their machines.
Then the drilling stopped. I thought they'd ended the search because they thought that no one else was alive.
The search area is huge, roughly the size of a soccer field. So the team's next challenge is simply where to start.
By hand is going to take way too long to reach him in any reason.
To identify the best area to search, the team studies a blueprint of the towers. Next, they consult a missing persons list.
Literally inch by inch until we can...
So then we were able to match up the flat numbers and where we thought that people might be.
In the process, Holland and his team learned that between 70 and 120 residents of the building are still missing. But despite all the maps and the missing persons list, the team's best clues to pinpoint a primary search area come from local residents.
Yeah, okay.
That previous night, somebody had heard voices. Whether that was true or not, we're not sure. However, you've got to start somewhere, and we based it on information.
Hello? Can anybody hear me? Hello, is there anybody here?
The team begins a sweep of the top of the collapse to see if anyone is buried just beneath the surface and survived the impact.
Okay, be careful, move slowly. Hello, can anybody hear me?
When you carry out calling and listening search, you're not necessarily looking for people just underneath the surface. They could be a few meters down, basically within listening distance.
Is anybody there?
Khalida and her mother are buried so deeply they hear nothing.
It was very scary. We were so buried that we couldn't hear anyone from the outside, and no one from the outside could hear us.
But on the surface, there's a breakthrough.
Okay, everybody over here. Do you have any injuries?
After just 45 minutes, the rescuers find their first survivor.
What is your name?
we had actually located a 14-year-old male who could be heard below the rubble.
The boy has a leg injury, but is otherwise unharmed.
We need stretchers, crowbars, hammers.
Already the team has living proof that their efforts are paying off.
Yeah, the feeling of finding a survivor so quickly after arriving on scene, you think, wow, that is just the most fantastic thing.
That's good, guys. Very slowly.
Only 15 minutes later, they hear another voice.
John, I think we've got a voice here.
This time, it's a woman.
Coming over, Julian.
She was only about 2 meters down, but there was a huge slab of concrete from the floor above, literally pushed against her face. All these people have been standing on her, on top of her, and she was very seriously trapped, very seriously injured.
This stuff out of the way.
So we had 2 simultaneous rescues going on.
We'll get you out as soon as we can, all right?
No one was pulled out that was as far down as you know, my own family was. So as, you know, elated as I was that someone else has been pulled out alive, that did not, you know, raise my hopes for my own family.
The first thing we did was to try and clear the dust away from her face. So she'd been covered in this sort of really suffocating type of dust for a day and a half.
Relax, stay calm. Who's at 2 there? All available for... Move out the way. Move out the way.
In less than an hour, they pull the teenaged boy from the rubble. But it takes a full 6 hours to free the woman from under the concrete slab. One of her legs will have to be amputated, but she will recover. For the Rapid UK team, it's a very good start.
Everybody's had a break. We can... Yeah, terrific. That's great.
Because you suddenly think, we've got 2 people here. By just doing what we would class as a surface search, how many more are alive inside this building?
That spurs you on. It spurred the whole team on.
Later that day, the rescuers find a 3rd survivor near the surface. Then the search goes cold.
I was remembering those moments just before the earthquake, and I was thinking what a good moment it was. I was asking Allah to keep my kids alive. I was asking this of Allah all the time.
For the time being, Khalida's mother has stabilized and has stopped vomiting blood.
Hope was all but gone at this point in time. They hadn't found someone for a good 10 hours, I think. I clearly realized that, you know, it was hard for them to survive 11 flights falling on them.
For the Rapid UK team, it's time to switch strategy, to move deeper into the rubble in search of air pockets that might contain survivors. It's hard to believe that anyone trapped in lower-level apartments, like Khalida and her mother, can survive such a devastating earthquake. But non-collapsible objects like sturdy couches, stoves, and filing cabinets are capable of bearing the weight of a collapse. These objects can also create air pockets and hollows known as voids. It's in these spaces that survivors might be found.
It can be the pockets that form from the collapsed roof, or it can be stairwells, lift shafts, anywhere we think there's a space.
You could see voids from the outside. So if you can see voids from the outside, then it's fairly guaranteed that there's going to be voids on the inside.
I guess it comes down to where you are in the building at the time, and a bit of luck. If you happen to be standing in the place that's going to form a void when the building collapses. I mean, that's fantastic. But if you're trapped in an area, if you're trapped under a beam, then yeah, there's no chance.
To hear survivors in the deepest voids, rescuers need special listening equipment.
Okay, let's get the probes down, boys. Ready?
What we use for the sound location is what we call a vibraphone, and that works on seismic and acoustic sounds. And it's basically 3 probes with a control box. Very, very sensitive equipment, and you place it on the rubble or down into voids.
All work, stop! Silence! Batten strike!
And you tap, you bang to people, and what you're looking for or listening for is a response of some kind.
Batten strike!
The sound of the hammer travels deep into the pile of rubble. The team hopes that any survivor below who hears it will shout or bang back a message.
Help me! Please, please, please help!
From the depths of the disaster site, a human voice rises to the surface.
One of the team members who was on the headsets said that he thought he could hear a voice. So I took over the headphones and listened intensely. We banged, we called.
Please!
And every time we banged and we called out, I could hear a very, very faint lady's voice. Very faint.
Okay, we definitely got something. Let's go again. Silence! Batten strike!
She was very deeply buried, and she sounded very, very desperate.
Trapped deep beneath the rubble is 33-year-old May Amin. The quake has separated May and her baby from her husband Firas, a United Nations employee, and their oldest son, Hussein. May has broken her back and one of her legs. She cannot move her lower body at all. But for the rescuers, the question remains, where is she?
She was a long way down, and we had thousands and thousands of tons of rubble. I mean, the first thing that really went through my mind, to be honest, was how the hell are we going to get to her?
Stu, keep this probe here.
They try for a stronger signal, one that will help them better pinpoint her location.
Let me know when you're ready, boys.
We tried going down the face of the rubble, literally each layer, calling in.
Hello? Can anybody?
But we couldn't get a better contact at all. If we could get a stronger signal, just say halfway down the rubble, then we could say she's in that area.
And there's different techniques of placing these probes to try and narrow down the possible search area. But it is a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack.
Let's repo again. Those two Stu, stay there. Okay, let's go one more position.
They are unable to get a stronger signal. Then suddenly, the signal disappears altogether.
We called, there was no answer, and we thought, well, what sort of happened? We thought, you know, it's taken this long. Why did the voice go? Why did we lose contact with her? What have we done to have lost contact with her? And that really did affect all of us, I think, in some way or other.
More than 30 hours have passed since the quake. What the rescuers don't know is that May Amin's 2-year-old son Abbas is also trapped in the rubble. Another rescue team brings in dogs specially trained to find earthquake survivors. But because the bodies are buried so deeply, the dogs are unable to pick up their scent.
Yes, that's it. It's perfect. It's working. Lower away.
The Rapid UK team turns to another high-tech search tool. It's a special fiber optic probe, designed to twist and bend around rocks and other obstacles.
Fiber optic probe is known as a snake eye. It's a camera basically on a cable and a pole, and it gives you an image of basically what you can see. It's in colour, has its own light source, and you have a control box which basically shows the image, whatever it's looking at.
But yet again, no signs of life. Now the team searches for invisible clues using an instrument able to detect the carbon dioxide signature of human breath.
It's basically a probe with a control box, an analyzer, and you're pushing the probe into voids, areas again, and you're looking for CO2 emissions from the exhaled breath of a person that's still alive.
But yet again, the rescuers come up empty. For John Holland and the others, May Amin's voice, reaching out from deep under the earth, continues to haunt them.
There was no point whatsoever that I thought about stopping the search for her. Because in my mind, she was alive. We were not going to give up on her, because you'd have regretted that for the rest of your life. So that was never an option.
We know it's a woman and we think...
In order to continue the search, they have to resort to a riskier method, digging machines.
We took a look at the map of the building, and we made an educated guess of where would be the most appropriate place to start digging in.
Back at the camp, John Holland gets an unexpected break.
Zone 2 to base. Zone 2 to base.
Zone 2 base here. Go ahead.
I was called on the radio to come back because a small void had been exposed that looked like it went further into the rubble.
The void is so small that only one person can enter at a time.
And we could only get in probably about 1.5 meters at this stage because it was just so small. I managed to get the top half of my body in because I'm quite a small guy, so I can get in there.
Is there anybody here? Can you hear my voice?
Called out, and amazingly, she called back. And I knew straight away it was the same voice.
Suddenly, May Amin's voice is coming in loud and clear. She must be close by.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that was a huge, huge lift for the team. But then it all starts again. Exactly where is she? Now the hell are we going to get her out?
Holland burrows through the ground toward the voice. Lined with broken debris, the tunnel is too small to bring in disc cutters and chainsaws.
A lot of the rescues come down to using your bare hands and small tools, which is back-breaking work, and obviously it lengthens the rescue.
Everywhere around him is the reminder of death.
You don't think about them at the time. You know they're there. You try and cover them up. You try and put them out of your mind. We knew that this is day 3, well into day 3. And this person's going to be very, very weak. They may be injured. So it is a race against time.
Moving anything in or out of the tunnel requires slow and laborious teamwork. To make his way toward the voice, Holland and his team must clear a path through heavily compressed debris. Holland has moved 3 meters into the tunnel.
Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. My name is May. May Amin. Please.
It is important to reconnect with May. After passing out, she regains consciousness and must fight to stay alive.
I love you.
Just past the TV was a picture on the floor, and it was all smashed, and it was a wedding photograph.
May Amin is now only centimeters away, but Holland is blocked by a large concrete beam, and now he makes a horrific discovery.
Cleared away the rubble and the rubbish, which exposed a body, which was a male, and he was crushed underneath the beam, partially. His head, shoulders were underneath the beam. I couldn't figure it out why he had a small arm. It wasn't his arm, it was a child's arm.
I mean, we quickly worked out that it was May's husband and her other son.
May's husband died trying to save their 7-year-old son, Hussein. The child is still locked in his father's arms.
That beam, in fact, that gave us safety and protection, and gave May probably safety and protection, took the life of her husband and our child, because they were underneath it.
Holland is shocked when May tells him that she can hear her son.
And then I said, what's your son's name? And she told me it's Abbas. I said, call out his name, May. And he called back. Unbelievable. This is a real race against time now, because we've got a young child here that's been buried for 3 days.
May, can you hear this?
Yes, I can hear you! You are very close!
But not close enough. The beam is too heavy to move or cut. They must get a better idea of May's location.
May, can you see the light?
I can see you!
The team needs to come up with a different plan.
After withdrawing from the void, I spoke to other team members, and we had to basically find a way in on the other side of this beam.
12 meters away and even deeper in the rubble, Khalida and her mother are still hanging on, but barely.
I was asking God that if my children had survived, then to save me too. But if, God forbid, my children were dead, then not to let me get out alive. Let me die too.
Rapid UK is busy digging a new tunnel to get to May Amin. This one is even tighter than the last.
Again, was with hands, just clearing the rubble out with hands, and then chopping up the tape. Was a table in there, so getting rid of that with a saw.
Working in an area that you can't turn, you can hardly turn your head, is very, very hard.
They are stopped dead by an iron bar 40 millimeters thick.
We had equipment that would have cut it, but we couldn't get it in there.
Instead, they bring in a hydraulic pump connected to a small jack. The jack raises the bar that they can't move by hand, just barely enough for a team member to squeeze through. Team member Paul Worcester is the first through.
Hold on, May. Just stay calm. We'll be with you very, very soon.
Moving through the dark void, Worcester comes face to face with May's younger son, Abbas.
Once he got that chair away, Abbas came towards him, actually crawled over him.
Come on, Abbas. Yeah, that's great. Come on, this way.
Now Holland crawls backwards all the way out of the tunnel, holding the tiny survivor. Miraculously, the boy has no major injuries.
Him crawling up towards me with my light shining in his eyes. Well, I will always remember that.
The badly injured May needs medical attention urgently.
Initial information that had come out from her was that she had pain in her back and her legs, and that she might have been trapped in some way, which immediately to us was starting to ring alarm bells in terms of medically just how that was going to affect her if we started to move her.
Because of those injuries, Gillian Dacey, the team medic, is sent in.
Yes?
My name's Gillian. I'm a paramedic.
Abbas!
Abbas is fine. He's on his way to hospital. He's all right.
Took my helmet off and put it on the end of the bed to generally light up the area.
My legs, but
Dacey reaches May and spots May's dead husband and son just centimeters away.
At the time, you just you focus. You've got to focus on the job in hand, and I guess I tried not to think too much about it. I don't believe that May had any idea that they were there because she was in a dark room, dark void. I don't think she had any, I hope she didn't have any idea at the time.
Can you move at all?
Dacey learns that May can't move her legs at all.
Okay.
And I was thinking, my gosh, ideally to treat her for those sort of injuries, I need certain spinal stretches and I need all sorts of things, but realistically in that environment, I knew that was not going to be an option.
Not gonna get a stretcher in here. We're gonna need a drag sheet. Can you get me a drag sheet?
Since May is unable to get out on her own, the only solution is to drag her out.
I've got it.
And the most simple tool was to get what we call a carry sheet or a drag sheet, which is basically a piece of a sort of heavy, durable canvas with carry handles, sort of canvas loops sewn into the side of it. And so that was passed down the tunnel to me.
Okay, we're ready to go. Pull.
And I know that caused her some discomfort on the way out, but she was very, very good about not complaining about it.
Slowly, May is dragged out of the void where she's been trapped for the last 3 days. But she must still clear the metal bar that blocks the exit.
It's difficult for us to get under it, and we're trained to get under those small things, but she was lying there, gripping hold of this canvas carry sheet, and then we're about to pull her through a small 10-inch sort of hole or space to get her out.
Nearly 60 hours after she was buried, the rescue team has saved May Amin and her son from certain death.
This massive roar and cheering just goes up. And people shouting, it's like, wow, this is amazing.
whole scene had really changed from when I went in. I had no idea of time when I went in, how long I was in there for. And when I came out and stood up, the spotlights were on. It was like being in a theatre, really. And it was a really surreal sort of feeling, and I just burst into tears.
He will say, you know, that must have been a really exciting experience, or you must have been elated when they come out. No, not really. Because you're pleased that you've rescued them alive, but they've lost 2 members of their family.
John Holland and the Rapid UK team continue their methodical search of the collapsed Margala towers.
Certainly every day that passes, the chances of survival are diminishing. And in fact, you know, after day 4 normally, day 3 or 4, you're looking for a miracle, absolute miracle.
Zone 2, go ahead.
Oh, we've got a voice back here, sir.
I was back at base camp and I had a radio message. Can I come to Zone 4? We think we may have something.
They hear a voice coming from an area at the very base of the rubble, 10 stories down. The location makes access from the top or sides of the rubble pile impossible.
Way too long to reach him in any reasonable time, because the area next to it that butts up to it, this building is still standing, and so we cannot get any machinery in there. So
there's only one solution.
The only way to get at it was from underneath the adjoining tower, from their underground garage.
Starting from the underground parking lot in the adjoining building, the rescue team works its way to the survivors.
The first thing we had to do was remove all this rubble. The guesstimate was that it was about 20 tons.
Using a concrete breaker in such a confined space is so difficult that rescuers can only work in 20-minute shifts.
In fact, one guy had to lay holding it across his body while the other one operated it because it was impossible to use.
After hours of back-breaking work, they finally make contact.
Hello, can anybody hear me down here?
Mommy.
The voice they hear belongs to Khalida. She and her mother are very close to death.
Dei sahar bande chima help da para madad da para ya Allah madad.
On the 4th day, when I called for help, I heard voices coming from the outside. I didn't know if it was someone who wanted to help us or someone who was trapped and needed help.
They gave us their ages, so we knew that one of the ladies was quite an elderly lady, and that she's going to be very weak.
The discovery of a survivor ripples through the crowd.
We try not to tell people until we're positive we've got someone and that we can get them out, because it builds up hope for people falsely.
Do they know their name? Is it a woman?
There was a point, 2 days into it, where I'd seen enough dead bodies come out. I had made arrangements for 2 coffins.
Over the next 16 hours, more than 20 tons are moved out by hand. The rescue team works through meters of bars, pipes, and cable. Along the way, death is everywhere. When Khalida and Ma are found, they have been trapped for 70 hours in a 30-centimeter high void.
Shone a torch down the tunnel, a powerful torch, and asked if she could see it, and she could. And literally you could just see a part of her with her hand moving.
But suddenly, they realize that Khalida does not want to be rescued.
When the light reached us, I got worried since I knew they were going to rescue me and I would be informed about my children. Without my children, my life has no meaning to me. My children are my life. If my children are not alive, I do not want life for myself.
She is fine. She's all right, but she's very distressed, and she really needs to know that you and you just turn around for a second. You and your
To prove that the rest of Khalida's family made it out alive, her son Mamoon is brought to the tunnel.
I put my head into a hole and yelled out, and my mother, I heard her very clearly.
We're all okay, Mom. Just wait for them to come and get you, okay? They're coming, Mom.
The love that our mother had for us, that was clear that day. If not before, it was that day.
Because they are so deep in the rubble, it takes most of the day to pull Khalida and her mother up to safety. Against all odds, they have survived nearly 83 hours in a rat hole. Those gathered at the site allow themselves a brief moment of joy.
It was destiny, fate, luck, chance, coincidence, whatever you may call it. The facts were entirely against these two coming out alive. I'd like to thank the great people of Rapid UK. We got lucky in the immediate sense when it comes to our family, but those 3 days made us realize just as much how much loss had occurred from this earthquake.
The massive earthquake killed nearly 74,000 people and left more than 2.5 million homeless. At the Margala Towers site, Rapid UK was able to save 7 people from the rubble.
To go out there and to pull people out of a building where they may not have been able to have much chance of surviving, it's a huge rewarding.
Give us a chance, and if there's people there alive, we'll find them. A lot of credit must go to the local people that helped and supported us as well.
The search continued for a week, but no other tenants from these buildings were found alive. Scores of people lost their lives in the Margala Towers. Etched in stone are the victims' names, including May Amin's husband and her son. May Amin recovered from her injuries. She currently lives in Iraq, along with her surviving son, Abbas.
I reflect on that and I think, okay, they're alive, but she's got to build her life again, and that's not easy when you've lost your husband and one of your children.
Today, what's left of the Margala Towers still stands, but the complex is condemned and slated to be demolished. Those who designed and built the Margala Towers have been charged with criminal negligence. Mamoon and others who survived believe that if the building had been properly constructed, dozens of people would still be alive today.
It was a ticking bomb, but we never knew about it until it fell.